YouTube, what the crap's going on? Heir of Carthage here, back with Total War Rome 2, and this time we're going to take a look at one of the other new additions, which was the historical Battle of Pydna. And it says, King Philip V's defeat at Cynocephalae left Macedon under de facto Roman control, which was another good, Cynocephalae was another one that we saw in Rome 1 that was a good phalanx versus maniple battle from history. We got several of them, and Pydna is another. And let's see, it says his son Perseus inherited the throne and was far less eager to submit to Roman authority than his father. Rome dispatched an army which, under the command of Lucius Aemilius Paulus, would bring King Perseus to battle near the town of Pydna. Now, I read a little bit about this on just Wikipedia real quick, which of course is no historical guide, but I think can always be relied on to at least relay some interesting facts. And one fact I found interesting on this particular account of the battle, as if it was true, was apparently that Paulus was reputed to have actually been extremely frightened when he pulled up the battle lines and saw this Macedonian phalanx moving towards his men. And just, I mean, the shock of it, the sight of all those pikes pointed in your direction in that organized combat actually caused him a certain degree of fear. Now, of course, he didn't just say, well, that's it, I wet my pants and we're going home. No, they went ahead and fought in true Roman style, and it says that the Romans actually tried a couple of different things, according to this account, and of course this account could be wrong, but it says that they tried to get in between the sarissas to get up closer to fight the Macedonians, said that didn't work, and it also said that they tried hacking the points off of the end of the sarissas, like using their sword to hack off the tip of the sarissa, but that wasn't working either. And so they tried a different strategy, and I'm sure that they'll probably explain it here, and if not, I'll say something about it. Let's go ahead and get the battle started.
After his capitulation at Cynocephalae, King Philip V of Macedon was allowed to remain in power, albeit as a client of Rome. Following Philip's death in 179 BC, however, his son, Perseus, was less willing to accept Roman control. An ambitious man, King Perseus began to restore Macedon as a regional power. The Romans, concerned that their de facto control over Greece would be eroded, declared war. After campaigning across the country, the two armies finally met near the coastal town of Pydna.
Wow. Macedon's got some cav there, I'd say. I didn't read much about the army components. That Macedon did have more cav and substantially more infantry, though, from what I did read. I said I didn't read much. I do remember now that there was substantially more men on the Macedonian side of this battle. Alright, let's get things started.
A Roman army under Lucius Aemilius Paulus has been sent into Macedon to confront Perseus.
Get a picture of Paulus there.
After days of maneuvering, the two armies now face each other near Pydna. The Romans, camped in the hills, send a foraging party too close to the Macedonian line. A skirmish breaks out, and increasing numbers of men from either side are drawn into the fighting. The Romans begin to advance, and King Perseus readies his forces. Roman control of Macedon will be decided today, on the field of battle.
Okay, so in...
Draw swords, men!
Here we go.
We must secure these hills for Rome.
So the map seems like it somewhat represents what I read about historically. The terrain becomes more broken the further the Macedonians pushed away from the coast, whereas down here closer to the coast the terrain was more favorable for a phalanx engagement. And of course phalanxes are going to do better engaging on flat open ground, where they can be better implemented and defended. Whereas the Romans, of course, would have held an advantage on the more broken ground with their maniples. And the other main advantage that I read about from history that seems to me like it would make a lot of sense is that when fighting became close and in close quarters, the Romans' larger shields and swords served them better, whereas the Macedonian phalangites, whenever they get into close combat, their smaller shield and smaller sword was more difficult to use. Of course, none of us were there. We don't know exactly how it happened, but seems to make sense. Alright, we're going to have to be somewhat careful. What we'll do is stagger our line a little bit. I don't know that this is going to be historical strategy, but it'll be my strategy. And I'll put my elephants over here. And then I'll put some of my own cavalry over here. Alright, so we've kind of arrayed ourselves for battle here, and it looks like the Macedonians are marching towards us. Which I think we kind of want, because it's going to give me a terrain advantage as they march forward. So I'm going to go ahead and see if the Macedonians continue to advance. We'll find out what the AI is scripted to do here. Right now they're sitting still. Looks like they're reforming a little. Let's see. Alright, well, the Macedonians appear to be sitting still. Let's take our troops and just cautiously move forward a little. See if we can lure the Macedonians onto higher ground. There was a lot more Macedonian cav on the opening screen than I'm seeing here, which gives me probably an unfair advantage of knowing that, but I'm assuming that we're in for an ambush. I think you all recently remember me playing the battle for Osaka Castle, and the guy's like, "My lord, cavalry!" And Heir was like, "Aw, crap. Aw, crap." And I can pretty much see that happening again, except without the Japanese guy announcing that cavalry was on the way. So I'll keep a close eye out. I would assume, though, if cavalry's on the way, it's probably going to come from these hillsides. We'll see. Again, I didn't read much about the battle historically, other than maybe just some troop counts and a few other things. So obviously, I know that it played out for the Romans in the end, because the Macedonian phalanx was drawn onto this hilly terrain, and they weren't able to stay in formation. And after the Romans' initial attempts failed, like I said, the Romans initially came at them at battle, were unable to break the Macedonian lines, retreated back to the high ground, and when the Macedonians did, their lines started to become split apart, and the Romans were able to get into closer quarters with them where they weren't able to use their pikes. I don't know if it was from the flank or if it was from the front. Using a large sarissa probably wouldn't have been easy to do on uneven ground and to stay in that kind of formation, so the Romans were able to get up close, use their larger scutum shield, and they were able to effect some pretty severe damage, and the battle was a decisive victory for the Romans. Very decisive, actually. And then King Perseus, I think, was brought back to Rome and forced to march through a triumph for the Roman general Paulus. Again, I could be wrong about some of this, because my reading was quick and rather hasty. Macedonians have light peltist, javelinmen, Agrionian axemen, and Cretan archers. They are very much going to outclass me here. Oh, look, here it comes. I'll let my velites go ahead and do some initial skirmishing here.
General, the enemy are sending their cavalry force at our flank. They seek to overwhelm us. We must act.
Okay, my triarii are going to be braced. We can now... They do have shot calves still coming, though. I'm going to hit them with a Draco here. And I'm going to pull my elephants further over here into this fight, and I'm going to retreat my Histati lines here. We're going to retreat away from the Macedonian advance. We've got a Macedonian companion cav general behind us here.
Orders understood.
So we'll try and get the Macedonian phalanx to break up a little, be our goal, until we can gain some advantage in this cav fight, which we are actually... Ooh, my elephants are in a little bit of danger here, though. We gotta get them away from that missile fire. The Romans did have elephants historically at this battle, which I'm sure the Macedonians didn't appreciate. Well, the Macedonians brought in their hoplites on this flank. I'm gonna go ahead and engage them. They caught me anyway. And they've got some companion cav over here as well. Really need to get my elephants out of this fight. I lost an infantry unit over here. Really need to get my elephants peeled out of this fight, but they are bogged down. No! I'm gonna lose my elephants. I can't seem to get my elephants decoupled from that Thessalian cav. There I finally did, but my elephants took some pretty severe damage. The main Macedonian force is trying to get to me now with their pikemen, so I'm going to go ahead and peel back again. I'm going to use these skirmishers to see if I can score a few hits on these cav, and I've now got this flank free. I don't want to engage these pikemen frontally, so I'm going to continue to retreat with these hastati. And the Macedonian general is going down, and now we should be able to surround the remaining Macedonian pikemen. There are some Thurio spears kind of catching up with me here. This cavalry's free. This cavalry's free. Okay, so now we've got the Macedonian phalanx kind of split up a little bit and moving about. Let's pull my velites back. I no longer have any ammo. Should be able to get into the back of those thorax pikes. Let's finish off these Cretan archers. And there is a Thessalian cav following me back here. Still want them to go after the Cretan archers. We need to perform a rear charge over here. Oh crap. Those pikemen turned to face my hastati and did a number on them. Okay, we got rid of that cav there. Alright, so the Macedonians still have a pretty substantial amount of infantry left, and most of it is pike infantry, and we're going to need to get in front of and behind it in order to defeat it. These hoplites look like they're going to be vulnerable here in a minute to a rear charge from my elephants and cav. And we're going to try and sandwich some of these pikemen, but they just still have a great position. They're still pretty defensible. Yeah, these pikemen all still seem to have a pretty good position on me. So we're going to have to do a better job of trying to get those pikemen broken up first. Should have pulled my cav out of that fight already. Let's see if we can extricate my elephants from it. I'm going to need these guys. Lost one more elephant. Let's get them out. I still haven't used the trample on my elephants yet. Okay, I'm going to try and get my cav together. Got my hastati in like a column formation here. Let's get around these Thurio spears. I have a number of elephants left. Let's perform one more good rear charge on these hoplites, see if we can knock them out of the fight. Macedonian cav is out. So basically they just have a ton of pikemen left, and they're all kind of still supporting each other. They're in a big blob, but they're here in the center of the battlefield where it's hard for me to get a great angle on them. I'm going to use an elephant trample charge on these guys. There are pikemen coming, so this is dangerous for my elephants. That did the trick though. I'm going to immediately get my elephants out of this fight. I might lose one though. Come on, go, 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 go! Okay. We've managed to get rid of all the other Macedonian units except for the pikes. Now we should be able to surround and defeat the pikes. So at this point I think it's important for us to get our units coming from every angle possible. We've got to really get the Macedonians surrounded. And we've got to avoid engagements before my entire army is ready to go. So we're going to use the maniple maneuverability here. And we'll get my elephants up for the scare effect. So you can see, yeah, the Macedonians going into kind of a defensive mode here. So what we'll do is see if we can sacrifice some velites in order to expose the rear of some of these pikemen. So let's kind of close the... Still going to keep my velites back just a little. Actually, let's go ahead and engage the velites so that forces the Macedonians to... Okay, we should be able to get in behind these units here. No, these Macedonians still have their back covered. And right here, they've turned to face my two units, so we're going to pull out for a second. This is going to take some finesse, folks. It's not going to be easy. The AI actually turns its pikes around pretty well. more effectively than I can. We do have this pikeman surrounded, and now that it's surrounded, I'm going to go ahead and pull this unit back from the front. I want to constantly keep denying the frontal engagement. Okay, we should be able to get into the back of these guys. See if we can get into the flank here. Let's bring my elephants up closer where the scare effect can play in. Inspire some of my men, drop a rally. These thorax pikemen are now pretty well surrounded. Okay, let's see. We need to get out of this fight. Let's try and get in between this gap, get in this gap. Get over here. We got some pikemen starting to waver. And we're going to need to pull out of this fight. Should be able to get into the back of these pikemen from one direction. Here we go. Yeah, we're going to be able to crash into the back of this one. Those levy pikemen shattered. We can now attack these guys from both angles. Okay, now we've got it. So we just had to take our time to, again, use the Roman maniple to outmaneuver the Macedonian phalanx. And we can now pour in everything we have left. Which means an elephant glory charge here, cavalry charge, throw in everything, knock out these thorax pikemen. These guys are actually fairly tough units, but now they're completely surrounded. And sure to suffer some pretty heavy damage, but amazing, they're still standing. It says they're now wavering, losing men pretty rapidly. It'd be funny if Paulus gets killed here at the last second.
The enemy phalanx are beaten. They run from the field.
Wow. So the historical battle of Pydna, I actually like this one. It's fun going Primarian Romans versus phalanx there. So we'll take a look at the aftermath. So I think that actually played out. Phalanx, but no thanks. Sweet. So this battle would probably not be too terribly different on Legendary other than the fact that the enemy units are going to get a lot more bonuses, but I think if you handle it similar to what I did there, of course a little better, which is to just continually outmaneuver the Roman or the Macedonian phalanx there in the end. So of course, in real life, they were unable to move across the terrain and engage, and in this case, the phalanx, I guess that's represented by their lack of maneuverability. Now, of course, if the AI had any brains whatsoever, they just would have boxed up and laughed while all of my men got destroyed. But of course, we've never attributed brains to the AI, thus AI, artificial intelligence. But I hope you all enjoyed that. And that was an interesting battle to me, and I actually did have a fairly decisive victory there. It didn't say decisive, but I'd say that held somewhat true to real life, which is kind of weird, because normally historical battles on Rome 2 just consist of Heir getting his butt handed to him. But I hope you all enjoyed that. Heir of Carthage, signing off for now.